29, 30.
That was way too stressful.
And also on Discord, it has that sound like suppression thing, so I never hear you guys clapping.
And in your head, you're like, that idiot Darth, he didn't do it.
He didn't clap. All right, Darth, find the document. Have you not found the document yet? I can see you not looking at it.
No, you can't really see it, but yeah.
It doesn't say that on the... Okay, Google's lying to me. It says you're not there. It's... This is a blight upon my peoples. Okay, I can see Rise there. He's a good citizen of the show.
I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You want me to read this?
Oh yeah, we should have the drunk person read it.
I can read it. You said I couldn't read it. I can read it. Read it. I'm really worried that by the time we finish this, I'm going to be hungover. That's my biggest concern right now.
I'm kind of waiting for one of your drunk friends to just stumble into the room while we're recording.
Yeah, I am worried about that. And just, like, the level of clothing involved could be interesting. We'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's you know what? We'll jump that hurdle when we get to it. Okay, let's do this. Let's do whatever this is. In 3, 2... Welcome to Always a Bigger Fish, the Star Wars show with 2 Star Wars exports. Yep, we're doing it live. 2 Star Wars exports, and me, a guy who kind of I'm not fussed on Star Wars, if we're being honest about it. And we are playing through Jedi, the worst title in the world, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's just a combination of words that no one is ever going to remember in their brain ever. Now, I want to give a bit of background here. So, what's y'all's experience with this game? I'll lay out the stakes and how the show's going to work in a sec, but like, have you guys heard of this? Have you touched it? What's your experience coming into it?
I've heard very good things about it. I had a friend that played it when it was new, or actually I had a number of friends that played it when it was new, and they were all very positive about the experience.
I was incredibly hyped when it was first announced, and all the trailers and stuff, because it was made by Respawn Entertainment, which was the company that made Titanfall, which is one of my most played, most loved games of all time. Like I had multiple clans that had multiple competitive teams. Like I was deeply into Titanfall. So the fact that they were making a Star Wars version of quote unquote Titanfall is what a lot of people expected. So I was all about it. Ironically, didn't care to actually play it once I saw some gameplay footage and stuff.
You were like, there's not even any guns. Where are the big mechs?
But I'm very, very PvP focused when it comes to gaming. So I have not really played campaigns until someone forced me to. So I really enjoyed this opportunity to be forced to play a campaign, because I adored this one, just even the first level of it. I was over the moon.
Felt like a weird drive-by, but that's okay. Have you played the campaign of Titanfall 2 at least?
I honestly didn't make it through the campaign of Titanfall 1.
Don't just play the campaign of Titanfall 2. It's one of the best... I think it could be one of the best single-player campaigns that exists. It is, so good. Anyway, that's just my advertisement for Titanfall 2 single-player. Okay, so basically y'all are coming in fresh vanilla babies. So I have... So I played this when it first came out. I played it when they did... I played it when I bought a PS5. And then I played it when they released the PS5 remaster. I've played this game maybe 4 or 5 times. So I kind of blazed through it. My first question is...
which one of us is a Star Wars nerd?
Right? It's I'm not a Star Wars nerd.
I'm not.
Yeah, I was going to... I feel... Darth, on behalf of both of us, I feel bad.
Let me tell you. The reason I have is not because it's Star Wars, and this is the most obnoxious opinion of all time. It's because of the game series it's based off of. So this game is a Souls-like, which means it is gameplay-wise styled after the FromSoft, Dark Souls, Bloodborne lineage of games, where it's basically a corpse run game. So you come into a level, you have a checkpoint, and if you die, you will respawn at that checkpoint, and wherever you die, your levels or souls, in this case it's skill points, for some reason. Wherever you die, your skill points stay there. And so when you die, they stay in that place, and you have to make your way back to it. Otherwise, you lose them if you die again. So I've been playing these games since 2010, kind of religiously, like every single entry that comes out. So the reason that I'm obsessed with this is I turn the difficulty all the way up, and I punish myself for fun.
I was the opposite. I put it on baby mode so I wouldn't get frustrated with it.
See, I think we have a good spread, because I went in the middle, because I was like, I don't want the hardcore experience, and I don't want just the story. So I'm like, give me some challenge here. Like, let's thread the needle. Let's go right in the middle. I think that's pretty good that we actually got the full spread on there.
So Rye, you're playing it like
I remember. There were a couple of thoughts that I had, and I was thinking about like what you said about like Dark Souls, where like if you get killed or whatever, you have to go back and damage the thing that killed you to get that stuff back.
Yeah.
Now I recall the original Dark Souls, and there was a buddy of mine that I was working with at the time when like that first came out, and he was like, "Oh, it's so good, it like punishes you," bah. And I went to play it, and I was like, "This is not my jam."
You got to the skeleton graveyard, and you were like, "No."
Yeah, no, I was like, "This is no." It was the bridge. Do you remember the bridge?
Sure. Yeah.
Like right at the beginning, it was the bridge, and it was like a dragon or something like that. I'm like, nope, I'm out. Demon. I'm done.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that'll do you. I mean, what's kind of interesting, I guess, as like a genre piece here is there are so many things it's cribbing from that series that it's afraid to commit to. It's just trying to be accessible to like a really broad audience, right? So like even the fact that when you hit the thing that killed you, you get your skill points back. Dark Souls would consider that to be like a cop-out. Like even Bloodborne, where that's where that mechanic comes from. If like it goes to the enemy that killed you, you have to kill the thing or you lose the souls. So there's this loop you get into with Bloodborne where if a particularly difficult enemy kills you, you go, fuck, shit, I don't know this, I don't have this guy's number, I don't have a beat on him, but if I don't kill him, I lose all those souls. And so you get into these loops where like, you're just in like a fucking, you're just in this hole where you're trying to kill the same thing over and over again. You're just losing your souls over and over until you figure it out. See, it incentivizes you to like get to learn that creature.
I'd like to go into a potential rabbit hole here where with that kind of concept, because to me the game that did that the best, or the game franchise or IP or whatever you want to call it, that because I know you don't like the word franchise, like the IP I think that did that the best was the Mordor games, where not only did the person or like the orc that killed you, not only did they get like become they got a personality, like they got that. Not only did you lose your shit, but like they got stronger because they defeated you. And then when you go back to them, like they would be even harder to defeat. And because of that, I think. Did you ever play the Mordor games? Did y'all play the Mordor games? Either of you?
I watched my brother play a little bit of them, and David did a really fascinating video on one of them. I don't remember which one, but I loved it, and I've never even played the game.
Yeah, almost the common experience, I believe, with the first game, not so much the second game, but like the first game, is that almost everybody had their orc that was their Everest. That, you know, like it was just like, and it wasn't like something that the game designed. It just organically happened because of the way that the game was designed, how the game worked or functioned. Where this orc would defeat you, and then he would get stronger, and you would be like, "Fuck that guy! I'm gonna go back and kill him." And you would go back, and then he would defeat you again, and then he would get stronger, and then you would like eventually you would hit the point where you're like, "All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna go off, and I'm gonna go progress." And then he would show up with his posse because he was so strong now that he had a following. And then when you finally defeated him, like that was the game. Like never mind the first Shadow of Mordor game, I never finished it, but I do remember very specifically my Everest of that orc that was impossible to defeat, and the sense of achievement and fulfillment that I got from finally taking him down, like that was the game. When I defeated him, I was like, everything else is bonus. I don't care. Like whatever. I never finished that game, and I probably
Yeah.
never will go back to that. But that guy, I remember him to this day. He had like a big fuck off shield and like a spear, and you couldn't. My move was to like vault over people and stab them in the back, and you couldn't do that to him
Yeah, it's
because he
always
got
the one.
so freaking strong.
It's the one guy who's immune to the thing that you gravitate toward, and it's like, yeah. I mean,
So
that to me is what is so appealing about, I guess, like the Souls kind of franchise is there are specific bosses that are designed to get different people at different times, like to find something that fucks. Like my thing initially is like I got really good at when I play those games, like I don't use a shield. I'm like big sword and roll through everything, and there are certain bosses that will just punish you for that. And so those are the ones that I just have like that I remember spending weeks like learning the patterns and trying to like beat the machine. And when you finally do, it's like the best thing ever. And this game is chasing that in a big kind of way. What's kind of interesting, I think, is it's chasing that, and then there's also this element of like exploration and puzzles that I think we're gonna find our mileage is gonna vary pretty significantly. I end up feeling kind of, even just the early segment that we played, I end up feeling it kind of hot or cold on how well I think the level design works to communicate what they're going after. And like, we'll talk about it when we get to like chapter 1, but like the diegesis of the story is super bizarre if you think about it for too long. I know it's a game or whatever, but that's what we do here is we overthink shit, all right? I just think the diegesis of this game is really interesting if you focus on it too much. Which is what we're gonna do. So, Darth, let's hear the summary for the prologue, and then we can get stuck in.
Cool.
Oh
Sorry,
wait, let me explain.
before-
Sorry, how the show's gonna work. It's like everything I do. So we're gonna play a segment each episode and talk about it, and we'll tell you the segment for like in this episode. We're gonna tell you the segment for next episode. So if you want to, you can hit pause, come back. So we're gonna talk about the prologue in chapter 1, and the stopping point if it's your first time playing is you want to play right up until you have a crew, you land on this grassy planet, you go out, do a bunch of shit, and you come back to the ship with a new destination. So all the way up, we'll basically finish the first pass at the grassy planet, come back to the ship. That's the stopping point.
All right, before we proceed any further, any long-term viewers of Darth or David or whatever will understand the term that you used. But if for those of you who have not, can you define diegesis?
So diegesis is basically the internal logical consistent world. So something to be diegetic means it actually occurs within the text. Something non-diegetic occurs outside of the text. A classic example is in a sitcom, right? A piece of music starts playing to set the mood for the audience in a montage, but it's not actually happening in the sitcom. Versus a song
Solo,
actually
the
playing
the Empire March was playing when he went to sign up for the Empire. In the world, it was playing.
Oh, was
Do
it?
you remember that?
Oh, no.
I'm
I've
pretty
actually.
sure that was. Am
it
I
was.
right on that, Darth?
Yeah. And actually, I've
That
had my
that is
brother.
an example of what you're talking about, correct?
Yeah, I've had my brother working on a script for me that's all about diegetic music in the Star Wars universe, and it's fascinating. I can't wait to delve into that video essay. I'll probably
Well,
get y'all involved.
This game opens with diegetic music, y'all.
I've got a note on it because I love that opening. It's beautiful.
I'm pretty sure it's jizz too. The genre.
I had to look up that word.
They changed it recently, and they were like, "It's actually not called jizz. It's called jazz." It's like, no, y'all, we know it's jizz. Don't even try coming at me like that. We know. Yeah, good call out, right? All right, let's do it. Hit us with it.
Among the graveyard of Imperial cruisers, separatist space stations, and rain, young Cal Kestis scraps alongside his partner, Poff. During a treacherous job for extra pay, Poff falls, and Cal saves his friend using the Force. The two agree to keep it quiet. The train back to the city comes rolling to a halt. The passengers are forced outside by the Second and Ninth Sisters, Inquisitors hunting for Jedi. Poff steps forward, laments the Empire's treatment of their labor as replaceable. The second sister runs Poff through with a lightsaber, and Cal lashes out, revealing himself as a Jedi, just as the ninth sister throws him from a cliff. Cal survives and fights his way across a speeding train filled with stormtroopers. Just as Cal is about to escape, he's confronted by the second sister. In a losing sword fight, Cal makes his getaway with the help of Siri Judah and Grease. See, I'd never learned their names, so this is not fair.
Seer Junda and Grease Dridus.
Aboard the Mantis, the trio travel to the remote planet Bogano, ready to discover the secrets of an ancient vault.
I don't know. I feel like Drunk Rye would have done it better. That was incredible. I didn't realize names.
Let me give it a shot. Let me give it a shot. Here, Cal survives and fights his way across a speeding train filled with stormtroopers. Just as Cal is about to escape, he's confronted by the second sister. In a losing sword fight, Cal makes his getaway with the help. Well, it should be one word. With the help of Sarah Junda and Grease Dridus aboard the Mantis. The trio travel. There's a whole bunch of T's here. The trio travel to the remote planet Bogano, ready to discover the secrets of an ancient vault.
Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't dazzled by my copy? Jesus. Why am I getting notes on my goddamn show?
Getaway is one word. Not only that, but Google thinks you spelled labor wrong.
Yeah, Google's wrong because you're fucking American. You guys take the U's out of everything. It's weird.
Yeah, like color.
Yeah, it's weird, man. Y'all are doing it weird. It's so strange. Why? Like, what?
Yeah,
you trying to save money?
We don't call stuff burgers.
Yeah, we can't get into the burger thing because a lot of people are mad about that still. Okay. I don't know. People just
don't add him about the burgers.
I don't want to hear about it. I didn't make the news. I just report the news. All right. I didn't decide.
It's on the website. It's KFC. Blame KFC. It's not his fault.
Thank you.
The more you know.
Fucking vindication. Okay, so what did you think? So yeah, we open with this diet. So Cal, it's so funny. Cal has on we start with this big panning shot, and it kind of pans into Cal, and he has on like a little pair of headphones, and he's listening to music. On what device? One might ask.
A Zune.
They didn't get iPods in this universe.
There was some, I don't remember what sci-fi. It might have been what's the Chris Pratt one? Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, it might have been that where like they had a Zune, where like we found this like this is human technology. Is it Guardians too? Yeah. But it was like well, the just today in the game day that we were having, we were playing this game called Mind the Gap, where they have like where it's basically generational trivia. And it's like Gen Z, Gen X, Millennial, and Boomer trivia. And they have different symbols for every category. Like the Gen's, what was it? There's like the Millennial music is like an iPod, which don't even exist anymore.
No.
Like that came and went really fast. But like if you were a Millennial, you remember that shit.
Yeah. I still have one somewhere.
I might.
I still have my dad's very first iPod, the very first iPod that ever came out. I still have somewhere. I think it still works. Just fucking.
What was the original question? What devices are you using?
Yeah, have we seen Star Wars fucking iPods before? Like, there's just so much stuff in this game where I go, what's going on here?
That was actually one of the points that I think my brother had brought up, is that like you only ever hear live music played in the Star Wars universe. You never hear the Millennium Falcon, like you never hear radio, you never hear music playing while they're driving anywhere, as people would, these days. It's only ever live music performances, and it's almost exclusively aliens performing the music. So there's a whole lot that you can unpack there. But no, I don't know of any. Like, I'm sure the books mention at some point someone listening to music, but I can't immediately think of anything. So yeah, it's like rare.
It's kind of an interesting like genre note, I think, from a sci-fi perspective, because when we think about like Star Wars as originally being a fantasy is like, that's exactly it, right? Like it's all like bards in taverns playing music and shit.
Yeah.
There's no DJs laying down records and shit. Like it's all kind of like music is a communal experience. It's not a individual one. And it's just, I think from a framing perspective, right? Cal is doing his work. He has on the little headset. He's doing whatever it is that he's doing. If you think about like working and having your headset in, that really is just like a, hey, fuck off world, I'm doing my jam. I mean, like immediately it's just like, it's like, oh, this guy is just in his own world. He's kind of like isolated or whatever. Really like simple shorthand storytelling stuff. What do you guys think? I mean, obviously the visuals in this, I don't know what y'all are playing on, but I'm playing this on the PS5 version. That opening little sequence in the shipyard with the rain and stuff, this is like one of the best looking games I've ever seen. Like, it is just like stunning. And to see like you have like the ST, whatever they're called, the walkers in the far background with their little like headlights walking around doing stuff, and you have like the big separatist ship, and I was like, oh, that's the one like from the prequels. Like, it's all just, the whole sequence for me is moments of like, there's a Star Wars one, and it all really works for me, I think, in a way that I never expect, but it hits me every time. Did y'all have a similar experience?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I was expecting you, Darth, to be like, but they did the one from the Star Wars, because I was in the same.
Oh yeah, I was literally giggling like a happy child.
So the thing that kept coming back to me about this whole sequence was I don't know if I want to use the word mundane, but possibly I want to say that, or the concept of the everydayness of living in Star Wars, where these guys are just, they're coming up and they're breaking up, like, you know, they go to work, they clock it. It's very much the way that Andor did, where they projected that everydayness of just living in the Empire, and these guys are like, they're clocking in and they're scrapping ships, and this guy's welding and this guy's breaking stuff up over here, and this guy's like just, and then they get on the ship and they go home, and just the everydayness of that, and how far removed that feeling is from the high adventure that we get in the in the mainline movies. Does that make sense, the concept that I'm trying to communicate there?
Yeah, well, and I guess, like, to me, this isn't going to be a surprise to anybody. I think the most interesting thing about Star Wars is the conception of labor under the Empire, and like what a totalitarian state does to the people that the labor is exploiting, and the way it treats them, and like the idea, like, this is basically like, this is the same thing as, like, you know, a bunch of people working in a mine, right, where they fly in, fly out work type thing. It's the same concept as, like, people junking and scrapping and doing like everyday work, and it's the stuff I'm most interested in sci-fi settings, because the ability to abstract out labor from reality and be like, it's just, you know, they're junking like starships that we watched as kids on screen that were like models that they shot miniatures on a soundstage and had to splice in physical film to make it happen, like, and it's so magical to watch as a kid, and for them it's just like mundane shitty labor where they're being mistreated and underpaid. Like, for me, that contrast is where you really get the range and kind of interest in sci-fi. For me, that's the stuff I'm interested in, is like the contrast of that, right? How do you take this big, it's all the stuff Gene Wolfe did in the 80s, right? How do you take these big heady kind of crazy ideas and go, yeah, but like, what is it like to just be, what if you're not what if you're not Luke Skywalker? What if you're just Joe Blogs trying to make a buck to eat and pay for your family to survive? What does that look like? And this is like, I mean, in some ways, I don't think a whole game of this would be very interesting, but it is the stuff I think that I'm most interested in. And I like the texture that's here. You know, they find a kind of like a broken Jedi starfighter, and they kind of like, you know, Cal touches it, and you can feel him. there's really good like non-verbal communication in this, and like the amount of the performance they get through with their motion capture is incredible. He sort of touches this broken, it almost looks sort of just through age melted into this steel surface, and it's this busted up Jedi starfighter, and he touches it and he kind of wipes away the muck to see the symbol, and you feel this like. You can like in that moment, it's the distance between what was and what is, and Cal feels every minute of that. And for me, that is where this really hits for me as like an emotional beat too, right? Like it's not just the conception, like at a genre level, and at a story level, but it's also like for Cal as a character, he is and was part of that. So like he was part of that big adventure sci-fi world. He was the protagonist. He was going to be a hero, and now he's just a guy who's forced to like, he's stacking shelves at the supermarket kind of thing, and that's really effective for me.
There's another feeling that they tap into, which is, I'm trying to look for the right word here, but I want to say quintessentially Star Wars, or either gets back to the basic roots of A New Hope, where one of the things that set A New Hope apart from all the other science or sci-fi stuff that was it either came out before or the stuff that came out after that tried to imitate it. Like there's a really terrible James Cameron Star Wars ripoff. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's on YouTube somewhere because it's like it was so bad that nobody's bothering to protect that copyright.
Okay.
But like, but there is a particular look where they're like it's in the future and this is what the future looks like, and there is a cleanness and a sterility to it that the original A New Hope doesn't have, because it's the future, but it's the past, but it's also and more scientifically advanced as far as technology, but it's old and it's lived in, and that is the feeling that the original New Hope, I guess Episode 4, whatever the fuck you want to call it, like the very first Star Wars with Luke and Vader and etc., has this like it's futuristic, but it's lived in and it's old. It's been this way for some time, and it has that look. And that is the same sort of feeling and texture, to use your word, that they paint with in Andor, and also this.
Yeah, Ridley
I
Scott
very
called
much
it,
got that
called
feeling. Yeah.
He called it the used future.
Yes.
Right? Like, yeah.
That's a perfect description of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, and like you could just like walk through this level and just like put the controller down and just like there's so much detail. Like it's difficult to try and think about like what I think is most impressive about this, other than you don't do that because you want to see what happens next. I think that's the piece that like this really nails. Like it's among all the spectacle and stuff, you're just there to do a job, and you're there to do a job that's like you're getting a little bit of extra hazard pay, and you're doing it because your partner needs the money. Which like
there was also a very important line, which I very much appreciate the writers thinking about and putting in there, which was because I'm looking at this and I'm going, from a logistical standpoint, why are they scrapping these ships? Why don't they like keep using them? They're totally usable. Why are they scrapping these ships? And you have what's the guy's name? Poff?
It's either it's Poff or
Poff?
I've written down Poff, so we'll go with Poff.
Yeah, or we're going with Poff. Like his buddy Poff, he says that. He's like, why are they scrapping? Like, I don't get it. Like, why we're scrapping these ships? Like, they're just gonna build new ones. And it's like, like I very much appreciate the acknowledgement of that thought, of, and not only that, but this is for anybody that looks at something from a logical standpoint or whatever, like this is 100% like logical thing to happen when you get to like government spending. That like we're gonna scrap these and we're gonna build completely new stuff.
You also, I mean, this is also like historically based, right? So like this is something that
this is happening with the U.S. Navy right now.
Uncomfortable because I was about to say it's a big project of totalitarianism, which is and fascism, which is like you have to erase certain parts of the past and rewrite it, and a big way to do that is like at an industrial level, to take old machinery, break it down, and reform it into a new form, in order to avoid. Like, you want to erase the memory of what was as much as possible because it prevents people from recalling that, like, hey, things were different. And we didn't all used to be, like, slaves that were treated like shit.
That, to be clear, that's not what I'm saying is happening with the US
No, I know.
Navy
I'm
right
saying
now.
that's what's happening in Star Wars. in the video game. Like,
what's happening with the U.S. Navy is that they paid to buy a bunch of ships that don't work, and they, instead of shutting that down and building new ships, decided to complete those ships before building new ships that actually do work. Look it up. It's the LCS, Littoral Combat Ships. They are
I'm not
crazy
surprised.
bad.
I mean, the U.S. Only excels in two categories anymore: total like spend on the military and total number of people that still believe angels are real. Like, y'all lead in two categories, and that's it. It's fucking wild. It's like more than 10 times the next country you guys spend on the military. It's crazy.
You're goddamn right.
No chip on that shoulder.
There's a reason we don't have free healthcare.
Boy, we got so many guns though. Why would you need healthcare if you have guns? ... Okay.
Getting back to what we were originally talking about.
I wanted to ask one thing about that. So they're scrapping all these things. You got, something I don't know what y'all read on this was, but I also really like the fact that they're using these machines of military, right? They have like the ATSTs and the walkers and stuff, and they're actually using them for like non-military applications. Like, they're using those presumably to find valuable scrap and stuff. We don't really get to see that in mainline Star Wars. Obviously, every time I say that, outside of Andor, what do you guys make of that? Like, have you guys seen that before? Is that like, where does that land for you? Because I feel like some people, when this came out, they were like, well, obviously, they would never use an ATST because it's not like, there was a bit of that, like, people going like, well, why would they? It doesn't make sense.
I'm pretty sure that I've read a lot of stuff about them repurposing, but I can't immediately recall like where I've read it. So I also don't know why that's being immediately seen as like a fallacy, because a lot of people reuse stuff for purposes not originally intended. And if you don't believe that, then come to the southern United States, because you will see so much that is not being used for its intended purpose and has been repurposed into something else, because rednecks do all kinds of amazing, creative, stupid stuff.
That tracks.
I have two things on this. First of all, one of the scenes that very much impressed me in Mandalorian Season 2 was when they went to the water planet in episode 3 or 4, and he crashed the Razor Crest into the water, and it was picked up from the water from what looked like to be an AT-AT that had been repurposed into sort of like a dock working machine type thing. That's the first thing. The second thing is, what repurposing is going on at the current time? Because most of that stuff, like what they're scrapping, is Republic era stuff. Does that make sense? Like, they're scrapping Republic era stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, why would they be repurposing Empire era stuff?
Yeah, they're kind of not. They're just using it because they just made it. Like, that's presumably what they're using the repurposed stuff to build, right?
Well, I'm trying to think of an example of where they repurposed something in that. If it happened, I might not have noticed it.
It's in the background of a couple of the shots that you walk through where it's like they're using walkers and ATSTs and stuff to like find valuable scrap. They're using the headlights and they're kind of like walking, looking for stuff. It's a really small detail. I just remember at the time people making a big hoo-ha about it. Yeah. We're not going to dwell on that. some other stuff I really like here. So we get this train sequence, which it's like again, like it just looks incredible. It's on some Blade Runner energy, is what it is. Like it's this like grimy, gringy, fucking weird train. And Cal falls asleep, and you get this little dream sequence with the when the klaxons kick in. You know, they're like wow, wow, wow. I like that shit gets me every. It's oh, the sound design is so good, and you're walking through them like Death Star ass hallways, and you just it's so good.
Do you remember that transition and how amazing it is?
So, regale me. I don't remember the specific way that works.
That is one of the most mind-blowing scene transitions that like I've ever seen ever. Like I just like sat there and like spun in circles for like a full minute because I was so blown away. So you wake up, but you're in like a dream and you can't interact with anyone, or maybe not. Maybe that everyone disappeared from the train car, but you go through a door, and then you get to a door that won't open, and you're like pressing the open button and it won't open. You turn around and you're in the Empire hallway. And you didn't see the transition. You're just in the train trying to open a door, and you turn around and you're in the Empire hallway, and it blew me away. It was beautifully shot. Like I just sat there thinking of how beautiful that scene was, and I want to gush about it some more. I loved it. I loved it.
It has that like Inception quality to it. That scene always reminds me of like in Inception when when they're on the bridge and she pulls the two mirror doors, and then like breaks one of them, and then you know the new bridge appears. It's like that level of like weird optical shit, and it's so surprising. And you're like, oh shit, and then the klaxons kick in. Oh, it's great.
Mm.
Is that so? I'm assuming that's a famous sound from Star Wars.
I swear I don't remember that sound until Rogue One came out, and that was one of the first like trailers that I remember. Was one of those teasers, and it just had the klaxon alarm blaring, and you saw like little blips of people running and stuff. Okay. And then after that, you saw it or you heard that sound like everywhere, and they constantly reused it. So I don't know if that was like newly introduced. I'm gonna feel ashamed if it was actually like in the originals all over the place, and I just never noticed it. You have any thoughts, Ray?
You're talking about the siren sound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the question?
Like after they introduced that sound in the trailers for Rogue One, that klaxon like alarm sound has just been like everywhere. It's like constantly reused in Star Wars media, and it's almost like they assigned that as the alarm sound for the Empire.
You're talking about the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes back to A New Hope, doesn't it?
Was it? Okay.
It
could
might
be right.
not, but it's definitely out of the original trilogy. At least
what I was
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It at least goes to Return of the Jedi. Possibly Empire. Maybe A New Hope, but I can't place it in my head right now. But I very much want to say it's called the Imperial Alert. And I want to... I'm trying to... I don't see it. I can't recollect the time when it's used in New Hope outside of maybe the Death Star attack.
Someone
possibly
in the comments
then
will tell.
Someone in the comments will tell us. But what is the main question regarding this sound?
No, that was the question. We were trying to place it.
Okay, well, yeah, it definitely predates Rogue One.
Okay.
It's probably just one of those things where like Rogue One used it so well that everyone chases that usage. You know, that happens all the time in franchises. Yeah,
there
really,
were
really cool.
2 notes that I had on this opening sequence. Y'all brought up some good points, which have tickled my brain a little bit. Then I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing. There were 2 points that really stuck out to me in this initial sequence that I wrote down on my notes here, which is what I used to prop up the alcohol that in the picture that I sent you. The first one is I very much had the feeling of Uncharted when I was playing through this sequence. Specifically Uncharted 2, which also opens on a train. And I also had the feeling that like while I was playing through it, I'm like, I feel like Uncharted 2 did this better back in like whatever year that was, like 2010, 2011, long time ago. But like I feel like Uncharted 2 did this better, where you were climbing and like different things were happening and like there was sort of like pre-scripted events and so on and so forth, and like you were progressing through the environment and the way that the camera worked and everything like that. And also I was thinking about Assassin's Creed, where Assassin's Creed, for all its faults, has really been able to nail like the whole parkour, like climbing
You used to nail
aesthetic.
it. Used to nail it.
Used to?
It's really bad now.
Uh, I haven't played the newest one. What's the newest one called?
Mirage. I've nearly finished it. It's a bad video game.
By
Everything
the
after
way,
Origins is trash.
I-
But anyway, go on.
Yeah, I think we didn't we talk about that on the original solo podcast, the Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Like that was my
Yeah.
game of the year in like 2019.
Pat would. Yeah, we would have
that
talked
game-
about it because Pat loves that game.
Yeah, that game was so fucking good. But like, anyway, so I felt that like Assassin's Creed really nailed that like that parkour flow and like smoothness, and in their initial games. I don't know what they're currently like, but like where was I going with that? Yeah, so like there was a lack of smoothness. It felt like to me, as far as like gameplay wise and like the parkour stuff like that. I felt like I've seen this done better like 10 years ago. That was one thing. The second thing was the fact of trains in Star Wars, which to me has seemed like a hotly debated topic. And
Oh, is it?
yeah. Or where people are like, well, they got ships in Star Wars. Why the fuck are they using trains? And I'm just like,
We gotta
bitch.
get these people outside more.
Well, I have very strong feelings about trains in Star Wars. Or rather,
What?
yes.
He reached that age. Remember, he said we got to focus on trains.
Oh my god, he's a train guy now.
Yes. So because like there was one I forget, there was somebody on the internet. They were wrong and I had to fight them. But like because you know how that goes. There was some guy on
Oh
the internet
yeah,
that was
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
man.
they were talking about like, well, they have ships. Like, why would they use trains? And I was like, bitch, we have planes now that move cargo and transport and everything, and we also have trains. Like, if you are going to be regularly moving a large amount of stuff from this point to this point, it would make sense for a train to exist.
Yeah.
Or some
You-
sort of heavy transport.
Yeah.
Like, outside of the fact that, like, or I would say, and this is relevant to some of the stuff that we've talked about over the past, like, years, because I'm pretty sure we got into it initially 3 or 4 years ago when we were talking about Solo and the concept of the introduction of fuel, which had not existed in Star Wars previously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, so fuel is a thing now. Ergo, you have to think about efficiency in logistics. And in that case, a train would make sense. So, specifically Solo is what usually gets called out. I was like, why do they have a train moving from here to here with this stuff? And like, why not just use a ship? And that's
Right.
like,
It's sort of also like if you think about it, right? Like the Empire doesn't care about these people. They are cargo to the Empire, and so they use a cargo train to move them from where they live to where they work. Like even just at a purely thematic level, it works for me as well, right? It's cheap, it's efficient. They're not going to put them on a fucking ship. Ships are for people, and workers aren't people, right? There's also like there's a really clean thematic divide there.
you got to pay extra for that. It's like, you want priority one? You got to pay extra for that.
Yeah, you can't
Put it
afford
on a
that
train.
shit.
That's cheap.
You're getting paid mining chips that you can only spend
So-
at the mining store. Like, you know,
My bottom line is I'm 100% down with trains in Star Wars.
pro train stand. Darth, what's your train stance? Are you pro or anti-train?
My only argument, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but my only argument is the track. I am fine with the train. But my argument would be, does it make sense for the track to exist? Because they have levitation. So what are the fuel / resource consequences of having the track there for it to levitate on? Because it's not using, like, metal on metal. It's still a hover car, but it's on a track, right? So
It depends on the train.
We don't know because we don't see the outside.
Because you remember Book of Boba Fett, they didn't need a track for that train.
That doesn't count. That show doesn't count.
No, you're
whoopsie.
wrong. You're wrong. Just sit there and be wrong. That's
It was a whoopsie. The train.
No.
Okay, the train heist was sick. Okay, sorry,
The
let me
train
rephrase.
heist-
The first
after
two
that is where it
episodes
after
are
that
good.
after hang on now hang in here because this is going to be a pun for Darth. But after that is where it goes off the rails. But like prior to that. Prior to that, like the sequel, like Book of Boba Fett, when he's with the Tuskens, is when it is peak Book of Boba Fett. After that is where it goes to shit.
I forgot there was good stuff in it. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
That was the only part of Book of Boba Fett that I was interested in. After that, I was like, this show is bad,
Yeah.
and it should feel bad.
It should feel badly about itself.
Yeah.
This is going to be controversial. I like his knee rockets.
That's
He
controversial.
shoots little rockets
Ah.
from his knees sometimes. I just think that's a fun idea.
I thought it was stupid, but it's also a fun idea.
Yeah, it's dumb.
no.
But it's fun.
Now
It's-
that's
but for a show
controversial.
so not fun. Like, it's a fun idea. Okay.
And there you
Well,
have it.
Knee rockets is not controversial. That's
Okay, well, that's
that
good
is
to know.
that is old school Boba Fett.
I never know with Star Wars. I didn't realize trains was a landmine I could step on. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, it's just insane to me the
So-
shit people care about.
Well, there is the what's the thing that you always say? People aren't characters. That's the
Yeah,
thing that
whatever.
you say. Yeah,
Old man
so-
yells from the lawn. Yeah.
Yeah. Old man yells at cloud. And the application of logic to stories and worlds and stories and made up worlds especially isn't always there. And the presence of a train in Book of Boba Fett is not so much them thinking about does it make sense for there to be a train here, as opposed to them going, I think it would be cool if we had a train heist. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's what that is. However, my feeling or approach to that sort of thing is like, yes, if you want to sit here and have an argument about the logic of a train existing in the Star Wars universe, like, I will sit here and I will defend the logicness of that.
Gotcha. I see what you're
Logicality?
saying.
I don't know.
Logic. No, logic.
I've been
is-
thinking about this
nailed
for
it.
a couple years. This has been cooking in the back of my mind for a while.
So
'cause
was Solo
there- I-
the first? Was it the first train then?
I believe it was, and that was the first instance where somebody brought up the logical implausibility of trains in Star Wars, and I was like, no, that doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Or no, rather, no, it does make sense to me why they would have a train. What doesn't make sense to me is why they have guards on this train, like that this train gets held up all the freaking time.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
let's extrapolate a bit. You know?
I think someone watched that episode of Firefly and went, we could do that in Solo. Oh wait, because it's Joss Whedon. Anyway, look, I just think I'm not saying that Ron Howard doesn't have any original ideas. That is kind of what I'm saying. Anyway, people got really mad at me for saying Ron Howard was mid. Like that's not been the case forever. People are like, it's so funny in that 7-hour edit that you did, Darth. People are like, you said that Ron Howard, the world-acclaimed director, wasn't very good. Are you out of your fucking... It's like, yeah, he's not. Like, he is self-admittedly a guy who can make films competently, but he just isn't interesting. And, like, that's not a new opinion. I was so surprised that people were salty about that. Again, people care about the weirdest shit. Like, it's just bizarre. One other thing on this sequence, So you go through the train sequence, like Rye said, it's Uncharted is happening. You get to the end of the train sequence, and you kind of get into this mix-up with the second sister, who I imagine for you guys, like, did you guys survive long in that fight before the cutscene, or was it like a few exchanges and then the cutscene happened? How did
Bro,
that
I was
go?
playing on story mode. That was like a 10-minute fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was
What
just
about you,
like
Ryan?
dodging around and rolling and swinging and just like giggling, and yeah, it was
You're a
super
You're a
baby
pig
mode.
and
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
I don't remember it being that long. Like I was holding my own. She didn't really. I mean, yeah, because it was like it was still tutorial mode. They're like, if she's glowing red, like you can't like block this. Like get the fuck out the way. And I think that was when that was happening. Yeah, that was a tutorial fight. So it was like, it was fast. I think on my end.
Yeah,
But the whole time I was looking
I
at
got
her.
one hit in.
Well, I might have hit her a couple times, but like the whole time I was looking at her, I'm thinking cosplay. It's all I was looking, or all I was thinking when I was looking at her. I'm like, all I can see is people dressing up in cosplay. Like
Yeah.
that's a very clear, very distinctive, or not so challenging outfit to do.
Now, some have pointed out that this is the same character, some claim, as the chicken Kenobi, whose name I forget, even though we did a whole episode about her.
Riva?
Reva. And it's not.
No way that's Reva.
And it's not. And that's really confusing. And I'm not saying that it is or isn't, but a bunch of people, it was so weird. A bunch of people were like, oh, they're rewriting this. It's like, no, the canon still works. It's fine. Don't worry. Because they want to bring Cameron Monaghan into the Star Wars live action at some point, which I think they should. That's the guy who plays Cal. I think they should do that at some point. But yeah, it's not that character, is all I will say. I'm not going to say who it is, but...
Well, I think Second Sister is just a title, from what I would assume. So multiple people could have had
Wasn't
it
she
over the
the
years.
third?
She's the third sister, yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't Reva the third?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this was
So
the
that-
second. Reva was the
So
third.
even that
like,
doesn't track. Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
It
people
ain't,
just...
it ain't Reva. It ain't Reva. I don't care what
It's
you
not.
say.
One other thing that I thought was really... Yeah, she kicked my fucking teeth in immediately. That's just impossible on the hardest difficulty. Like, I blocked one chain of attacks, got a hit in, and then she just killed me in one hit. It was pretty brutal. And then it goes to the cutscene. One thing I did like, I just wanted to call this out because I know someone's going to say it if I don't say it out loud. When they get everyone off the train, they're obviously looking for kind of imagery from the Nazi occupation of Poland, where people, a lot of Jewish people, use trains to try and get across borders and things like that because they were fast and efficient modes of travel. The Nazis would frequently wait at borders and stop people to check papers, even in between cities as well. And they would stop the trains. It's
Time
imagery
out.
we've seen used
Fast
a
and
bunch.
efficient modes of travel, he said. Pay attention. to
Yeah.
that. Good
Hey,
continue.
obviously, this imagery gets called on all the time. It's in that third Harry Potter film. You get it in the Grand Budapest Hotel, right? It's kind of this enduring cultural memory of like what fascism looks like, which is like there is literally nowhere to go. The exploited people are walked off of the transport that was their only option for safety, and basically at gunpoint, who among you is Jewish, who among you is a Jedi, right? Like it's pretty clear, like 1-to-1, which is just like noteworthy. And one can think about the politics there and question if it's like appropriate imagery, but it is at least here and kind of clear to me anyway that it's happening. But the way this all ends is so the ship turns up, starts shooting at the second sister, and Cal escapes on the ship, where he meets Grease and Seer, which are two names that you're both going to forget, but that's fine. So Grease is the little weird guy with all the arms. Ooh, is that he's not. That might have been racist, but he's a little weird guy with arms. Don't at me. And then Sia, who's the human person. There's two things that happen here that are really interesting to me. The first is that Sia seems to immediately know that Cal is a Jedi because of the laser sword, and the second thing is that Cal like picks up this little musical stringed instrument that looks kind of like a lute. And he plays a song that Sia wrote, and then she kind of tells us she tells us by telling him that he has this ability to like, he can hear memories through the force of objects that he touches, which Wikipedia tells me is called psychotelemetry, and is a Jedi special power, which they invented for this game apparently. But it's cool. And he plays a little song, and then they have a little conversation where she's like, "Hey, you're a Jedi. You've been hiding for too long. We gotta go find this temple. We gotta see what's up." She kind of gives you that. She sort of, it seems like a test of some description, but we kind of don't really know why. What did y'all make of this little setup, and like how does that force power work for y'all?
I think that actually has been around in the EU for a good minute. I can't immediately remember anyone who used that power, but I know that existed before the game did. But that may have been them officially like making it canon because Disney changed everything. There are multiple interesting things in that scene that I thought that was a really eloquent way of introducing some, backstory about the characters' powers and stuff like that. But that's also the scene where you find out that she used to be a Jedi, and there's a whole lot of this that, to me, is tying into The Force Awakens with them retroactively trying to change or make some things more believable. Because a lot of people were saying that Rey also has this same Force power, which is why when she touches the lightsaber, it was not the Force just randomly doing stuff. It was her using accidentally that Force power to see the history of the lightsaber through the years. So
Right.
by them reintroducing that same idea with a main character in this popular video game, they're like, oh, Rey's not really broken. She had this Force power. And you saw the same thing with that the female that I'll never remember her name, who used to be a Jedi, and she says, I cut myself off from the Force because blah, blah, blah. Historically, I don't remember anywhere in the EU where someone was able to cut themselves off from the Force, but because Luke did it in Episode 8, now they're going to introduce a character who does it in this video game to say, oh yes, this happens all the time, so we can condone what happened in Episode 8 with Luke, because now this character is saying, I did it too. So it was interesting to me to note these things that seem to emphasize what had happened in the sequel trilogy, that is now being made canon in a different way in these games.
And Disney's ongoing project to rehabilitate those films is like so extensive. It's kind of crazy. Like they can't just let them be bad. They have to like they got to keep like reframing and retouching the play until it looks like it was a touchdown. Like it's so fascinating to me.
I mean, that sounds like I have like a really negative reaction to the game, but not at all, because like the number of notes that I have here, like they did this so well. Like the fact that I was sad when Poff died, and I was like, we've had like 5 minutes of dialogue with this character, and it still like tugged at my heartstrings for him to be killed. Like that emphasizes how good that his character was built up just in those 5 minutes of screen time. When you talked about the Jedi Starfighter that they found on the top, and then Poff goes into this little explanation. Like, until that point, I didn't really understand what the time period was that this game was set in. But when that little bit of exposition started, then it really solidified the time period of where we were, and it just felt so eloquently done that it wasn't like thrown in my face. It was just part of the story. It was part of this conversation between these two characters. So there was so much about this world building and the character building and the story crafting that just I loved how they did it. And something that I've been waiting to ask to see what y'all think is, in this prologue, what do you think I spent the most time doing?
in this prologue. I'm trying to think what you have access to do. So you can't meditate, and you can't craft lightsabers. So I expect that you found out that if you push right on the D-pad, your lightsaber comes out, and if you push left, it goes all. I think you stood there and did that for like
I
an
did
hour.
do that a lot. I ran around a lot trying to like see what I was able to slash, what bits of the wall would glow if you slashed them and what wouldn't. But no.
Rye, what do you... what do you mean? Oh, he's got foot. He's swinging. He likes the rope physics. I see.
I spun around on this rope for I don't know how
You're
long.
a psycho. What? You just... This clip's still going. What is wrong with you? You just like the rope physics?
Yes.
Bro, you gotta play The Last of Us Part 2, because the rope physics in that is wild. That's incredible. I would have never guessed that.
And then
I don't
there
know
were a
what to make
couple
of
of
that.
those. There were a couple of those. There were either 2 or 3 different ropes that you had to climb up and down, and I was always just like, whoop, ooh, whoop, and down. And this
Like
thing
a
like,
child.
can you, yeah, totally. And there was a bunch of them because I think I had said this privately to y'all in the chat that I don't play games like these all that often. Normally, most of the games I play have like really obvious indicators, like Destiny or Anthem or whatever. Like if you're doing story stuff, there's a big old thing that says go here, and so you know where you're supposed to go. So I spent so much time just like running in circles around a tiny room and then figuring out, oh wait, you're supposed to like slide between these 2 things that are like this, and you got to turn sideways and do that. I'm like, I've never done that in a game before. And then all the times, like I jumped off so many ledges to see if that was what I was supposed to do. I just killed myself over and over and over.
Yeah, I do that constantly in this game. There's a moment where you come to like a section and you're looking out at this big vista, and there's again, it's nighttime and it's raining, right? And there's a single rope. It's like it's a dark rope that's dangling down. Every single time I play this game, and I played it like 4 times, I don't see that rope, and I walk around in circles on that platform for like 2 minutes until I see the rope. It's bad. That little moment, bad game design. But the rest of it, fantastic. I just never see the rope because it's fucking nighttime. Also, fucking cinema sins. Ding. Okay? That's ding 1. Ding 2 cinema sins ding is Cal's lightsaber doesn't fizz in the rain. You guys wouldn't know this because y'all don't play video games, but in the Jedi Knight, Outcast, and the old Jedi games that were back on the original Xbox, when you pull out a lightsaber in those games and you're in the rain hits the lightsaber and like causes steam and stuff because it would in the rain. It's a big gripe I have with, among some other stuff, in the second prequel film when Obi-Wan and Fett are mixing it up on the roof, and Obi-Wan has his laser sword out in the rain, and it's not fizzing and hissing in the rain. Just little details like that. This game doesn't do that, and a lot of people were very upset. They were like, oh, the lightsaber isn't a physical object in the world. It doesn't react to the rain. And like, yeah, because it's a video game. They can't program for everything. Programming's hard, but I did note that wasn't there. It's my only 2 CinemaSins thing for this episode, but, you know. Small grievances. It's good stuff. Do you have anything else on the prologue, or should we talk about chapter 1? Oh no.
Okay, so I already said swinging around on the cables pretending I'm Tarzan. The other thing that I did that I just thought was hilarious was I constantly tried to loot every body that I killed. I don't know why, but I kept running to the stormtroopers and trying to bend down and loot the body.
Is that
Expecting
a
to
thing?
find what?
I don't know where that's from. I've never played a game where you do that, but I sure tried to do it in this one.
I have no idea what to make of that.
I mean, coming from Baldur's Gate 3, it makes absolute sense. But like, I never once had the inclination to loot anybody in this game. It was just like I killed them and I just moved on.
Maybe I was like really into the story and I was like, okay, I gotta gather stuff up. I need to survive. What am I gonna take from this dude? I don't know.
Yeah. It's like,
Can
well,
you
he's a
loot them?
stormtrooper. You get experience, which adds up to skills. It's souls from Dark Souls. There's no stuff to get. You do find stuff in the world later, but there's no stuff to get from killing dudes. And where there is, it just automatically happens. You don't have to like pick it up. So keep that in mind. You don't have to loot moving forward, Darth. I promise.
And then you already mentioned how good the graphics were. Even though I didn't
Yeah.
realize until like it may have been nearly the grass planet when I realized that I had just set my settings too dark, and that's why I couldn't see anything. So, like all of my I recorded a whole bunch of clips so I could use them, and like all of them are so dark I have to go in and like brighten up everything. So I was like, wow, it looks even better once you get the correct graphics settings. It's amazing.
I don't know how you have lived this.
I know,
sometimes.
right?
It's crazy.
I've heard that a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, that would make it, especially that first level. It's mostly
Yeah.
dark to start with.
Yeah. And when I first, this is going to make you laugh and cringe, because when I first started, I was like, well, I could tell that this is a really old game because the graphics are terrible.
You're like, it's really muddy and I can't see anything. It's
Yeah.
shit. B minus. That's funny. That's funny. Rye, anything else on the prologue, or should we move on to Grass Planet time? Take silence as consent. Darth, let's hear.
Did we lose him?
He's dashed off to get more booze. I imagine. He's downstairs making a cocktail.
What happened?
Huh? Where'd you go? Were you back?
Oh, I'm dipping in and out here. What are we talking about?
I asked if you had anything else on the prologue before we go on to chapter 1.
No, like I said, the only things that I wrote down were Uncharted and the trains in Star Wars. Those are the two big highlights for that. The section where I feel like you brought this up like several minutes ago, but the section where they hauled everybody off the train, and they were like, there was a feeling there that didn't sit quite right with me, where they were like, you need to give this person up, or something like that, or like for the good of the Empire, or something like no, you need to give this person up, or all of you are going to die. And I was like, that's a little bit different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's kind of
like
comic
that
booky villain.
Yeah.
And the scale of it also kind of hit me as being weird because they had 8 people lined up there, and like apparently that was the entire population of the train, and that was all of the workers that had just come off their shift, and they knew that the Jedi was one of these only 8 people. So like the scale of that didn't make sense to me. Like normally that would be like a crowd of 100 or something, in that type of scene.
Yeah.
There was one other thing that I want to talk about is how it was. I feel a couple ways about this. Is on the one hand, I feel obviously that it was telegraphed that his buddy was going to die, but I was getting a couple of different vibes watching that, or that sequence, because it didn't happen. It wasn't done. I think the correct term would be, or the correct adjectives would be like heavy-handedly, where he goes, it's like, you need to get out of here because tomorrow you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be 50 and you're gonna be just like me, and like, oh, in the very next scene I'm like, and I'm dead. Like, not like that. Like there was enough separation where that wasn't too heavy-handed. Like it was clearly telegraphed this guy's gonna die, but there was sort of a crossover there between Good Will Hunting and Rudy, where he's like, you need to get out of here, kid. And have you seen either of those movies? Hopefully both.
I've seen both. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, but like, you have his best friend in Rudy who like dies in the steel manufacturing plant or whatever, and that inspires him to go off and actually seek his dreams and become, create a complete fiction about what he actually did at Notre Dame. And then you have Goodwill Hunting where that speech where he gives them is like, no, you owe it to me to get out of this with the situation that we're in, because tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be 50 and I'm going to still be doing this, and you have the opportunity to not do that, so you owe it to me to get out of here. So I kind of felt like that was the vibes that I was feeling, and I felt that there was enough separation between that sort of speech and him actually dying to keep it impactful, like telegraph that, set the expectation that this was something that was going to happen, and then have it happen but not feel like forced. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. He didn't say like, I'm one day away from retirement. Like
yes,
you could imagine a different version of this. You know, like the writing here is really strong in that sense. I think I mean, sometimes it kind of, this is going to sound derogatory. It's not quite how I mean it. Sometimes it is too Star Wars for its own good, like that we were just saying, like the train scene where it's like give him up or we'll kill you all, and it's like, yeah, that's not a compelling argument. Like, I think the moments when it crosses that threshold and becomes kind of cartoony, I don't know, I don't have a better word for it. I think that's where it's the weakest. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, especially as like an emotional beat, like Darth said, we've met this guy for like 2 minutes and you still give a shit that he gets murked, and that's impressive, you know.
There have going back to what was it, Balin's Route, that homework that I assigned many months ago from Epic NPC Man. Have you seen their God, what was it? I think it's not. Oh, it's their first-person shooter logic sequence or series, where they're like, where you have the main character there who's the same Balin guy, he's the guy who plays Balin, not the same character, but he's going through there, and the NPC character alongside of him like keeps referencing these things. It's like, oh yeah, you're cramming a lot of backstory in here. You're definitely gonna die. And so it's like, oh, you remember how we did the thing? I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of their stuff since you turned me onto that channel. I really like it.
I love that channel so much. Anyways, yeah, pretty much everything about this opening sequence is pretty solid in its execution, and yeah, pretty good stuff.
I did not write this down, and I should have, because I was thinking about you, Rai, when I went on this ship. So you come out of your room, you go down a short hallway, and then you enter what I'm going to call like the living room, and it's actually like kitchen/living room. And the first thing that I noticed was like, oh snap, you know what they eat? Like there was like food and plates and stuff like all over the counters there, and like there were cupboards, and there was like something that looked like maybe where they like grow vegetables or something, and like. I'm sure that's in a lot of games, but I really appreciated seeing that, because like immediately I was like, if this wasn't here, I would feel so like it would feel wrong. But this feels like a home. It feels like a living space where characters could exist.
I mean, you also get
Ubisoft level of detail.
You also get the answer to the question, what do they do for fun? Because Cal plays that little musical instrument.
That was the first thing I did.
Yeah. I forget that that's what you have to do to trigger the next sequence. I was walking up, because I know how the game works. I was walking up to the point where I'm like, open up the ship menu, and it's like there's no prompt. Why isn't this working?
So I was thinking about that on the meta level while I was playing through there, where like I walked in there and there's a fucking guitar, and I'm like, I'm gonna play the guitar. I'm gonna do it. And I was doing it, and then it went to a cutscene. I'm like, oh, I was supposed to do that, but obviously I would do that because it's fucking there.
Because it's there. This game is really good at stuff like that, where it's sort of. Darth was talking about like the lack of waypoints and stuff like that. There's no like radar or compass in this game. Like the map is garbage. We'll talk about that in a second.
The map is hot garbage.
They fixed it in the second one, but even
I don't feel so bad now. Okay, I was so lost on that second level.
Yeah. This season of Daredevil in the Details is brought to you by the Maynard Trig series. These are my Dying Earth science fantasy steampunk coming of age novels. The third book is out now. You can grab the first book, Maynard Trigg and the Creature Beneath the Veil, hardback or paperback. It's on special right now at underink.press. Appreciate any support you guys give. These books are one of my favorite things I've ever done. I'm super proud of them, and I would love you guys to check it out. If you're interested in the stuff we do, I guarantee you'll enjoy these books. Head to underink.press and grab your copy today. Okay, Darth, let's hear the summary for chapter 1, and then we can talk about the terrible map.
After revealing she no longer uses the Force, Seer sends Cal to an ancient vault. Along the way, Cal meets a friendly little droid named BD-1, who joins his quest to beep and boop and be charming. On their journey, Cal reaches out to the Force, remembering his ability to wall run. Inside the vault, BD projects a message from Jedi Master Eno Cordova, detailing how he hid a holocron containing a list of known Force-sensitive children within. To access it, Cal must find the tombs of 3 Zepho sages. With BD's aid, Cal embarks on a journey to rebuild the Jedi Order. I have so many problems with this storyline. Yeah. I was angry when I heard that was like the story. Okay. Go ahead. What you got?
Well, I'm gonna no. You lead.
Okay, so how old is this freaking vault? How long ago was the holocron sent there? And we are still going after the children that the holocron mentions, who are now possibly dead because that holocron is 100 years old. Right?
Wrong.
Well, no, wrong. Because the holocron was hidden there after the fall of Jedi. So the holocron's new, the tombs are ancient.
Correct.
How firmly does the story set the timeline from when the Jedi have fallen to where we are now?
So that isn't the question. It's because I was a bit confused, I think, on possibly the wavelength that you are initially, where I was like, huh? As far as the timeline, and then I was like, oh, this shit's really old, and this guy just put his stuff here.
Yeah.
Okay. Even then, yeah. That makes more sense. But even then, I'm still like, they're talking about how older these people wouldn't be in the same place they used to be. I guess you have their names, but still, that time gap was really confusing when I first heard
So
it.
we're somewhere between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, probably prior even to Solo, I would imagine.
It's you can put it together schematically. It's about 10 years after Order 66.
Even that far, I'm on Darth's level of like, these kids are not where the holocron says they are.
Yeah, it's. I'll be honest. It's a bad idea for a plot, and I have so many thoughts about this. This is why I wanted to cover this game with you guys. They have to invent.
Well, I'm glad time out. Glad we're talking about this because I didn't clock this at all. I don't know what we're doing.
The other. So okay, here's the thing. There's a couple things happen. There is the holocron of it all. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. The other thing is they have to invent a whole race of ancient aliens that we didn't know existed before, called the Zepho, in order to have these tombs. And I don't know why so many franchise games do this. This has happened in a bunch of franchise games, where they're like, it's set in the universe, but there's a secret alien,
precursor.
Yeah. Now I can see Darth is looking something up, and I would encourage you not to Google anything about this game because there will be spoilers.
So, what I wanted to try to remember was because I had watched a video one time, like a year ago, that was like the origin of Force users, and it was like really, really out there, and like there was this whole alien species, and like they went to some planet, and then they like blah 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 blah. So I'm like, is that what they're talking about? Are those the Zepho that I'm remembering from that story?
Could be.
But I'm gonna stop Googling since you gave me that warning.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I wanted to explain
that's
that.
messed up about Star Wars canon is that like you can go back like 10,000 years, and technologically, like the universe has not really progressed. Because that's like what is it? SWOTOR, Star Wars: The Old Republic, is like 10,000 fucking years ago or something like that, where there is a Sith Empire and an Old Republic existing at the same time. This is prior even to the rule of two, so there's like Sith all over the place. And technologically, we're not that different from where we are in quote unquote the present day of mainline Star Wars. So like, how further back is this precursor civilization, first of all?
Yeah. And then like the other question is like, well, like how have we not heard about them before? And I guess the answer is the universe is real big. Sorry, the galaxy. My bad. I did want to explain one thing. The reason I say don't Google things isn't for any particular reason other than people that do like games, guides and stuff like that are incredibly talented, but they have this problem where in order to write games guides, you have to have really good SEO because people need to be able to find the specific thing when you Google it. And so what ends up happening is in order to make that happen, they often have to front load an explanation of something with a bunch of words about that game. And it'll often be something like you'll Google like how to solve this puzzle. And it'll be like, after Cal does this and before he arrives at blah, you'll find this puzzle. And the thing that it's like, oh, I didn't realize that XYZ character died. Okay.
Yeah, after Dumbledore dies on page 796.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, wait, what?
I
It's just
literally had that
treacherous.
happen. I don't know if I've ever told you all that, but I literally had that happen. Like, I got into all the Harry Potter books like right before the 7th book came out, so I knew almost nothing about it, and I was reading all of them leading up to it, and I had not gotten to that book yet, and we were in Books A Million just walking past the Harry Potter section, and one of my friends like freaked out. It was like, go away, don't look, go away, go away. And of course, I'm a guy, so I had to do the exact opposite, and I had to look at whatever he was telling me not to look at, and there was a book with the literal title of How Did Dumbledore Die? And I'm like, I shouldn't have looked. You were right, I shouldn't have looked. Now it's ruined. But yeah, why would you title a literal book that? Because it like immediately spoiled the thing for me, you know?
I mean, he was
So
old.
that-
He was gonna die soon anyway.
No, not even that. Like we're playing. My friend and I are playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and each of us have both encountered like, she's all over TikTok, I'm all over YouTube Shorts, and like Baldur's Gate 3 is popping up because like Google knows what we're interested in, and like it's spoilerific. Like there's like I was like, oh, that person that we killed in Act 1, she's actually a companion that we could have
Did you
recruited.
guys kill Lae'zel?
Not Lae'zel.
Oh.
Lae'zel
Who'd you
is
murder?
Lae'zel's my girl.
Who'd you murder?
The drow in the goblin camp.
Oh, I killed her too.
Yeah, you can side with her. She can be a companion.
You don't side with the fascists. I can't.
You can.
I know you can. I'm just saying, your first instinct shouldn't be to side with the fascists.
I'm
Also,
just saying
she's-
you can. And
I
the
know.
fucking brilliance of that game to like be as close to D&D as a video game can be. It's amazing.
It's great. Yeah, that game's excellent. That's a conversation I think we're going to keep having throughout this series. It's like, how good
Yeah,
is Baldur's
stop
Gate 3?
playing Jedi Fallen Order. Go play Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. We all play both. I'm playing like 4 games at the moment. I don't know. I've never did that. Okay, so yeah. This planet's the structural thing happening here is weird. The load-bearing requirements for this story are a Jedi holocron that contains the location of all of the Force-sensitive children, seeming to imply that one could rebuild the Jedi Order with that alone. 2, that this Jedi Master, Cordova, who I always thought was Endo Cordova for some reason, but it's not. He is a big guy who studies these things and has hid all of his shit in their temples as a test for a... I think the semantic implication here is that only a Jedi strong in the Force, who's a goody guy, could pass all of these trials. Like a Sith couldn't, because their connection to the Force is with the baddie part of the Force, not the goody part of the Force. And so I think the supposition he's made is like only a strong Jedi Knight will be able to pass these trials, even though he himself is a strong Jedi Knight. So it kind of raises the question, like, why didn't he use the holocron to rebuild the Jedi Order? But then you wouldn't have a video game. So I'm kind of fine with that.
I thought the idea was that he was hiding it because he was about to die. That's usually the implication of when a message is given in that fashion.
Oh, that would make sense. That isn't the case.
But that's also really standard in Star Wars too, is that like only a Jedi could open a holocron. You see that a lot with Darth Maul and Ezra in Rebels, where like Maul kidnaps Ezra because he has to have Ezra to open the Jedi holocron. And then Ezra like has to be taught how to open the Sith holocron because he doesn't understand how to use the dark side.
So I have 3 different notes on this section, one of which is about psychometry. Okay. Is that something that you were going to discuss? Force echoes.
Psychometry. Is it called psychometry?
It is called psychometry.
Hang on. Wait a minute.
Or psychometry.
I was about to say I'm going to be chaotic and call it psychometry.
Psychometry. Yeah, you're right. I was wrong before I said it was a different thing. I was wrong. Yeah.
So I put Force Echo - psychometry because I don't think they actually refer to it as that until later.
No one says it. There's a pop-up that tells you at one point.
That could be it. That is, to me, a sort of clever storytelling device that doubtful either of you have played this, but The Division?
I played the first one. Yeah.
Oh, you played the first one? Okay. Darth, you familiar with it all, The Division? Did you play it?
I don't know why I feel like throwing this out, but there also is like a little blip on one of those things that you could look at, and it says the actress's name that plays Khaleesi. She's like one of the dead characters laying on the ground there. So they threw a whole bunch of stuff in when you do that little blip, and you can look around at the history of whatever happened in the room. There's some interesting stuff that you could read in there. It was a really cool little look at a storytelling element, I guess. Is really interesting.
Yeah, so I was reminded of that. Was The Division was very much like the second one, even more so, but the first one was very much lacking in story, and you had to. Well, I should say, let me rephrase that. No, that's true. It was the first time both games were very much lacking in story. However, the first one much more so than the second one. You could find a lot of story in the environment if you went looking around. Yeah. And the way that they were able to do that was through the echoes that you could find in when I'm referring specifically to The Division, the echoes that you could find with your watch or whatever the hell device that they used. There was a lot of storytelling that they had in the game there that you could actually like piece together. Like if you found this sequence and then this sequence and then this sequence, you could actually find them out of order. But if you saw them in the correct order, they were a complete story about what happened, and it was really interesting to me. Like that, I found that on later playthroughs after my first one, because I think I played through that like 3 or 4 times with when different friends of mine were like leveling up, and I very much appreciated that. Like there's that concept of sort of like found stories. Is I'm going to reference an even older game, BioShock. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, of course. The audio logs.
Yeah, exactly, the audio logs. There was what was that guy's name? It was something Levine, the
Ken
showrunner
Levine?
story. Yes, that guy. So he gave a talk, I think, at one time about the video game or about video games, etc. And he said he specifically said, nobody cares about your stupid story. And one of his goals with BioShock was, instead of like force feeding the story to the players, etc., that he was going to like hide these story elements basically throughout the levels. And that if you wanted the story, you could go find it in these audio logs and other sort of events and stuff in BioShock. And that's the same sort of concept that's carried through the Division, where unfortunately in the Division, like, the main storyline isn't enough by itself, so that most of the storytelling is really caught within those, like, sort of echoes that you find. But it's a storytelling element. All of that to say, it's a storytelling element that I really do like, where I can find that stuff and be engaged in it if I care about it, but if I don't, then whatever. Just let me run through the level and get back to the ship.
It also, like, you can start to piece together, like, okay, like, and the other thing that I really like about this game, and less so the next one, is like when you scan stuff, every now and then Cal or BD1 will like have a little chit chat about what you just scanned. Only like things that are significant. It always adds a little bit of texture. And as much as Cal is kind of annoying in this game, if they get it right in the next one, he just sometimes is grating. But I also like, there's just like a lot of little detail in here. There is some stuff that makes you go, huh? Like, Cordova is like, you made it to this temple and you're strong in the Force and you passed the test. And I was like, what test? This thing is just on a hill. What does that mean? Like, okay,
that was one thing that I was thinking about. I'm like, why couldn't the ship just land over here?
Like, I get it. You need a video game level. But, like, how is that a test? Was the test finding it? Was that the secret? Because maybe that was the secret. But then Sia passed that test, not me.
It
There was
friends
also
made along the way.
Well, there was actually getting through the tree too, though. Because like if you walk through the tree from the front, the hole in the tree, then you just come out the other side. But like if you activate the thing and then walk through it from the back, then you go into the secret room underground.
I'm looking at David and I'm going, what tree?
What are you? You
so
mean
when you get to the big hill, there's the big ancient temple.
Tree.
Ooh, is it not?
Is it not? I thought it was just.
There's no fucking trees there.
I think it's a tree growing up right out of the middle of the thing, and there's a big crack in it.
I thought it was a piece of stone.
Okay, maybe it's stone. We'll go back and look.
It is stone. It is stone.
Someone check the tape.
Because I have a lot of recordings, but I don't know if I have one of that. But anyway, so maybe that was part of it, was that like finding the hill, finding the temple isn't the thing, but you can only access the secret hidden temple if you go through that crack the right way, with the right mindset, with the right connection to the Force, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I could conceivably see that that's what he's talking about, but the overall issues that I had with this stage are one, what I already said about the purpose of the holocron being a list of Jedi kids. Like, I think there are so many other things that they could have gone with. And B, the fact that this whole time, like, part of the secret was, like, the droid was the secret the whole time. And I'm like, your entire plan for the continuation of the Jedi Order can't be this one little droid surviving on this hostile planet with all of these rabid tardigrades that want to come up and eat you at all times, and this little droid has survived all by itself, and you want to entrust the entire Jedi Order to this little thing. Like, those two things, like, hurt me from a storyline perspective.
I don't disagree. Also, you kill a lot of animals. And they're just living their life. Do you know what I'm saying?
No. They're living their life. They tried to eat me.
I have no business being there. That's their home. That's where they live.
Survival of the fittest. That's all I'm saying.
What's even sadder is, like, you see this, I'm going to call it a crate dragon. I don't know what it was. It was some kind of dragon that's, like, snoozing on the other side of a cliff. And the droid is like, oh, this is a very rare species. This is a sighting that you should be proud of seeing. And I'm like, if I could get over there, I would try to kill it.
That thing's full XP.
Well, the part where you're underground, where the thing's just, like, looking in the hole and, like, sniffing, I was like, that's ominous as fuck.
Ooh, what did you get to that I didn't see?
Well, maybe you didn't look up, but like there's several parts where you're under. I think where you're learning wall running, possibly before that, possibly after that. But like there's like a big hole in the ceiling, and like there's a big fuck off monster like just like looking down in the hole and like flaring his nostrils, like smell something good down there.
Man,
You
I
can
want to
go
go
back
back
and
and I
You
want
can
to
go
go
back and
find
fight
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's a
I,
hole- you have to
I
fall
was
down a hole to
100%
find it.
thinking like we could fight that thing at some point.
You can fight it now if you want.
So speaking of the
it's
wall
out-
running thing, I need to know how much time that you guys spent in that room being lost before you realized that it wanted you to wall run.
What?
I
Wait,
am
sorry,
I am
so you
really
had the
I know.
flashback. So you had the flashback. Okay.
know.
You had the flashback where it teaches you how to wall run.
It
And then
it
you're,
just
you're looking at the room, and it visually, before the flashback, it shows the little critters running on the wall. And you had a flashback where your Jedi Master is like, hey, learn to wall run. And then Cal's like, wow, I've remembered how to wall run. And you're like, I don't know what to do.
No, you don't see the
Remember-
flashback until after you wall
remember-
run. All you see
he
is-
No. That's not true. You touch the wall, and then he remembers how to wall run. You flash back, and then you can wall run in the level.
Didn't you just a minute ago talk about Titanfall and how much you liked Titanfall?
Yeah, that's the other
That's
reason.
not
I
even-
need-
Wall
90% wall
running?
running.
Isn't Titanfall like known for its wall running?
That's the other reason I'm really embarrassed about that scene. I-
You should be.
I spent at least 5 minutes completely lost, killing myself over and over, trying to jump up on the rocks on the other side. And then
So-
eventually I remembered that right before I got there, you saw this like glowing little critter like run across the wall. And at the time, I just thought it was flying. I didn't realize it was like literally running on the wall. I just thought it was like dream critters that glowing and running around. And then I was like, oh, maybe it
so
wants
wait.
me to...
Did you not touch the wall?
I didn't know
Is
you were
that the
supposed
issue?
Okay, so if you're supposed to touch the wall, no, I didn't do that. You wake up in a dream, you're like at the edge of a cliff, and you have to wall run to get over the cliff. But there's nothing, indicating that besides the glowing critter that runs across the wall right before you wake up there on the cliff.
What are
So
you
that's-
talking about?
So, okay, what happens is, so
Do you
you
not-
get to the end of... So the way
ahead.
the game works, okay, you go through the little room that's got the water on the floor, and you jump up, and then you get to a place where you can no longer go any further. There's 2 walls, and it's like there's like a cave in between the 2 walls. The wall next to you is glowing, and you click in the right thumbstick, and Cal touches the wall, and as he touches the wall, as Darth is saying, a handful of critters run across the wall, and then you snap into
remember that
into like
at
a
all.
force vision, and in that force vision, 2 of the critters run across a wall in front of you, and you're just standing there looking at the wall. The game doesn't say out loud wall run, but there's a wall with lines on it that look like you could maybe, because it's a video game, it assumes that you know, and so then you wall run, and then as you're wall running, it cuts into the flashback with your master, who then teaches you how to wall run.
Yep.
And you were stuck in that bit before it cuts to the flashback?
I don't remember those critters at all. Like I just went immediately into the flashback.
Huh.
Possibly because I think maybe it had been spoiled to me at some time long ago that like wall running was a thing, so I'm like, I'm just gonna run on the.
You
fucking
probably just
wall.
intuitively...
Yeah. But now I will say that it was after that sequence where I was like, I think I'm in the part that Darth was talking about, where I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing here? Because like I couldn't get out of. I was like, clearly I'm supposed to be able to do something, but I don't see it, and it was that I hadn't put together. I hadn't remembered that you can wall run and then jump off of the wall.
Yeah.
And that was that last little bit that I was missing. Because that took me... That was a frustrating bit. Like, there was a friend of mine that was I was talking to at the time on Discord. And she was like, oh, how's Jedi Fallen Order going? I'm like, really? I'm just trying to get back to the ship. I'm fucking done with this.
Yep.
I'm
yep.
really worried about some puzzles in the future for you guys. Because this is like, that's not even a puzzle.
Yeah. It was just navigation. It was just
That's
like basic.
That's
Yeah.
confirming that you understood the thing it just taught you. This is gonna be a great series. We're gonna come back next week, and you're gonna be like, "That fucking Jedi temple took me 12 hours." Oh, I'm
Like
so worried.
I was worried because I didn't have a lot of time and to play this week, and because of Baldur's Gate 3. And so when Darth was like, it took him like a number of hours to get through this, I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be a while.
Darth got stuck on a bit of side content that you don't have to do. In the future, my suggestion is going to be this: if you get stuck on a puzzle and it's getting to the point where you're just shitty with it, just message me, and I'll tell you how to solve it.
So
Because I feel
this was where I got stuck. Is this one solvable? Because I cannot tell you how long I spent trying to solve this.
You don't have the force power you need yet.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I looked at that and I was like, nah, fuck it. I'm going back to the ship.
Because, see, there are so many possible ways to solve that puzzle. Like, there are 6 fans in that room, plus the 2 there, so there's 8 fans total. If you stop them using the Force in a certain order, then theoretically it would make the ball fall, and you could do whatever you're supposed to do. So I spent so long trying to stop the fans and figure out what order you were supposed to stop them in. Then I realized you could actually access that if you go around the outside, ledge crawl, going around the outside of it and get through the backside, and I'm like, I don't know what the game wants me to do, and I don't even know if this is part of the story that it wants me to do, because there's nothing telling me what to do. And then I gave up trying to get that golden ball, and I just kept trying to find the ship after that. So I
thought it was maybe part of like the thing where it was like you can't upgrade BB or what's BD. Yeah, you can't upgrade.
Yeah.
You can't upgrade BD1 until blah blah blah, and I was like, maybe that's part of the thing, but fuck it, I don't care. I'm getting out of here. I'm done with this.
Yeah, my suggestion is the second you run into any friction with something that isn't clearly the thing you're doing, just move on. It's like a Metroidvania style thing where you'll come back later and you'll have new powers. Yeah. That's very funny though. I love that it's just like you guys are climatizing to this style of game. Is very entertaining. What's the one thing that Jedi famously do? Force push and pull. You need that to solve that puzzle. You don't have that yet.
Well, you can do a force freeze, which is what you could use to stop the fans.
Yeah, but you need to be able to push the ball.
Okay.
Which you don't have yet.
One other thing I have 2 other things that I wrote down on my notes here. One other thing that I thought was interesting, or interesting enough to bring up as a topic, was the lady. What's her name?
Sia.
Siri? What's her name?
Let's call her Siri. I like that.
Sia.
One more time.
Sia, like Sia's catalog. Sia.
Seer used to be a Jedi. I was like, used to be a Jedi. And like, this is not the first time we've heard, or that it's, or in mainline Star Wars, where this concept of cutting oneself off from the Force has been thrown out there. Like, I think, in my recollection, is the first time is Last Jedi, and there was another time, I think, in one of those shows that I had remembered earlier, and now I've forgotten. I've just drifted away. But the whole idea of like cutting oneself off from like, she used to be a Jedi. I'm like, well, Ahsoka used to be a Jedi, but she still is basically a Jedi. You know, she's just not part of the Jedi Order, but she still has all the swag and the powers and such. Whereas like this lady is fucking useless. So, like, what does that mean? She used to be a Jedi.
Well, and also Cal says that his Force connection was damaged by Order 66. Like, it seems to me that there was some kind of like psychic backlash from all of these Jedi dying that affected some people more than, like, particularly new or younger users of the Force or something like that.
I think actually the novelization, you got to read the novelization of Episode 3, because I'm pretty sure it talks about that with Yoda, and that's one of the reasons that he wasn't able to defeat Sidious when they fought, was that he always had this like glowing aura of all of these thousands of Jedi, that he had this connection, and then just imagine that connection being gone and you're just suddenly alone, and you don't feel that support from all of these other people, and then it was just like him versus Sidious. And I'm pretty sure I remember the novel actually specifically talking about that he actually felt like depleted because he lost all of those positive connections. But yeah, I had said the same thing earlier, Rye, that this this A, it felt really odd that they put that in there, and B, it felt like they were trying to condone the story that they went with Luke, because yes, people can decide not to be Jedi, quote unquote, like Ahsoka did, but that doesn't mean you lose your connection to the Force, because the Force is your blood. Like, you can't get rid of it. It's supposed to always exist, supposed to always connect everything and everyone, and you shouldn't be able to disconnect from it, otherwise you just die.
Well, the thing with Luke in The Last Jedi is that's part of their explanation of how he didn't know what was going on, is that he had severed his connection with the Force to such an extent that he didn't feel Han dying, or didn't feel like the great disturbance that Kylo and Snoke were.
Actually, now that I've said that out loud, I might could be okay with that, because it's not the same as stopping something from happening. It's like if you're an alcoholic, you know you're an alcoholic, but you never let yourself think about alcohol. So it's still there if you ever let yourself think about it. You still have the connection. You're just not allowing the connection. It's like a mental block where you're not allowing it to enter your thoughts. I don't know if the movie.
It's a trauma response, right? Like, it's your mind kind of shutting itself down and being like, I can't deal with this, it's too painful.
I just don't know that these stories are presenting it in that way so that it makes sense to the audience, because all she says is, I'm not a Jedi anymore. And and then the initial reaction is just, well, you can't just decide not to be a Jedi. But when we explain it the way we just explained it, it makes a whole lot more sense. But
it's also the first... It's foreshadowing. You're going to learn why. Like, it's setting... Like, that's the thing. Like, it's setting something up, right? You're supposed to go, why did she cut herself off from the Force? Not, it doesn't make sense. We don't know why she didn't cut herself off from the Force, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's my thing on the why of people is, it's not about the why. It's the mechanics of the how.
Gotcha.
Also, quick side rant. One of the things that has bugged me immensely over all of the discussion related to the sequels and Kenobi and Boba Fett and Mandalorian and everything that's basically come out since Lucas sold Star Wars, is people really like to bandy about the words like PTSD. They're like, oh, PTSD, and oh, PTSD, and this and PTSD and that. I'm like, shut the fuck up about PTSD. Okay?
Are they saying that a lot?
Yes! It drives me crazy.
Maybe it's just like one of those like psych pop words that happen to be popular at the same
that's
time.
exactly what it is, and it bugs the hell out of me. Where they talk about, like, oh, this is exactly what PTSD is, like you fucking know.
Also, that's like not it's not one thing. It's quite a broad category of things.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
Yeah, I always think that's really interesting that's just like people do that though. Also, like, the character's not people. Like, they can be written to have a particular thing happening, but it's hard to explain like what I exactly mean. But like, characters don't experience PTSD. Characters are written with certain traits that are based off of things, and so it's like the obvious example here, right, is like, we can suppose at this stage, we don't know, but we could suppose that from the information we've been provided, Cal is having trouble with the Force because of a type of way he feels about. Yeah, a type of way he feels about Order 66. We don't need the game to be like, and this is his diagnosis. But we still have the question for Seer of like, why did she... Because she frames it as if she actively cut herself off from the Force. Cal it happened to him. He didn't make a choice, right? And so, you know how Star Wars, everyone is always bullshitting on about echoes and stuff and rhyming and whatnot. This is the story positioning them at two different ends in the same, two different ways of getting to the same place, which is they are both people who have lost this connection to this thing that they've had their entire lives. One of them is framing it as an active choice. The other is in a position where he feels it's happened to him. It's passive. And the game is going, okay, as a story, this is what we're interested in. We're interested in this one character who is going to be encouraged by someone who is sort of hypocritically, in a certain sense, saying, hey, you should continue and pursue this act of reconnecting yourself to the Force. And that's going to become a question for the story. Is like, well, isn't that hypocritical for her to do that to him? And what does that mean for her to be encouraging this kid to do something that she doesn't want to do anymore? And that's, like, to me, like a really interesting question.
So, two things. First of all, why was David all emojis right there? And secondly, something in what you just said reminded me very much of season 2 of Mando, where they first run into Ahsoka, and she's talking about and we learn Baby Yoda's name is actually Grogu, and she's describing, like, yeah, he was trained with the Force back in the Jedi Order, but he's been hiding that to the extent that, very much like Cal, like, his connection with the Force or his abilities are damaged. That no matter, like, he's got the training, and he's which is accounts for, like, his ability to manifest the Force in the way that we've already seen him do in season 1 and season 2. But however, he is struggling with it, and he has that his connection with the Force has been damaged. She doesn't use that word, but that's what she's getting at with, like, he's been keeping it on, he's been trying to keep it on the DL this whole time in order to survive, so much so that his connection with the Force is damaged.
That's exactly what I was going to say about Kenobi. It's the same exact situation.
To be fair, if all of your if everyone that you worked with at your company was killed at the same time, you might not feel like doing that work anymore. Possibly, right? Like, even if you abstract it to, like, these are just your people you work with, even if you take away the religious culty part of it, it would fuck you up pretty bad. So it kind of tracks in that sense. And
I think that depending on which source that you want to look at, I think that the books actually kind of talked about it like the light side of the Force was, like, quite literally depleted after all of the Jedi left, because there weren't those connection points anymore. So it wasn't just that you lost those connections to other people, but the Force felt less. If there were less Jedi, then it's harder for you to connect with the Force. I don't know how canonized that thought is, but I'm pretty sure that I've seen that in some of the EU stuff before.
I mean, nonetheless, it's an interesting thought. Like, there's one other thing I want to... So, there isn't really a canon explanation for this. It's just a video game. But when you meditate, all of the enemies come back, because it's Dark Souls. And also, when you die, you come back to the meditation. There isn't any explanation for how this works. The best fans will come up with is there's one canon storyline, and it's the one where Cal doesn't die and just gets through everything. And the ones where you die and come back, or you meditate and all the enemies come back, that's all him seeing the future through seeing possible outcomes through the Force. It's all hypothetical Force visions.
Going back to Assassin's Creed, that was one of the best sort of ideas that they had there for how to gamify that concept, was that when you died, it was like, no, you're desynchronized, because that isn't how it happened, Yeah.
Yeah, they never answer it. I just thought it's worth noting, because someone is going to... I know someone who's going to listen to this who is going to send me a text message that says you didn't talk about the meditation point. So I did it. You're fucking welcome. You don't need to message me anymore. It's Jess, I did it. Don't fucking text me about it.
It's weird. I never would have thought about that at all. Like, it's just it's a common type of save point to me. It never clicked that needed to be part of the overall story and like overall lore of the franchise or anything like
Yeah,
that.
myself either. I'm the exact same as Darth. I'm like, it's a save point. That's what it is.
Now,
It's
what I
normally
will
the type of
say,
thing that you guys would bring up.
what I will say about the save points is that it is the way that they did it, at least on the grass planet, is the most OCD obnoxious thing for my type of personality, because I'd be going down a zip line, I'm like, oh look, a save point, and then I wander around the corner and I'm like, oh look, a save point, and then I'd be going around another corner and like, oh look, a save point, and I've just been saving the game every 5 minutes for no reason whatsoever, because every time I see a meditation point, I go and I click on it for no
That's a
reason.
good
Candy.
instinct.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Yes, it's literally, yeah.
That'll serve you well later when they start. Again, this is the opening planet. They're being very nice to you. They're kind of holding your hand, being like, hey, it's baby's first adventure. Later on, you're going to be like, oh, thank fuck it's a save point.
Baby's
So-
first event. I died like 5 times.
Yeah. So my thoughts about this grass planet level were, in my opinion, the way that they crafted this like utterly killed the story pacing, because I spent like 90% of the time running around lost trying to figure out where I was supposed to go. The first half of it was trying to find the temple to complete the mission, and the second half of it was trying to find where in the heck my ship was so I could finish the mission. And at no point did I have any concrete knowledge or confidence in my ability to navigate even using that freaking map. Because it was all zip lines that went to different levels and blah blah blah. So I ran around and killed the same tardigrade like 50 times because I kept thinking I was going in the right direction, and then I wound up just like going in circles and going back to the same place that I was.
So I would very much, I was gonna say disagree, but that's the wrong word. I very much agree with Darth on his assessment of this level, because like initially I was like, ooh, what's over here and what's over here? Let me go down there. Let's go over here. And blah blah blah. This and that. And then finally, I got to a point where I was just like, where do I need to go? All right, I'm going there. And how do I get back to the ship? Let's go. And you spent, I don't know how long trying to figure out the ball or whatever. I actively looked down there and went, that's probably a thing, but fuck it, I don't care. I'm going back to the ship.
Yeah.
And again, I apologize for the fruity language tonight, but like I've had quite a bit of gin, so
Look, the thing is, it's not very well designed, because what you should think, and this isn't the way, the game does not do a good job of institutionalizing this through its play, right? Its conveyance isn't really there. What it should communicate to you is, hey, you have the wall run, you're at the end of the level. This is a level where there's a bunch of there's layers to it, and you were on the bottom before and you came to the top. What it should be communicating is, hey, the quickest way to get back to the ship is just try to stay on top as much as you can. Because if you come out with that mindset, there's a really clear path where it's like 4 or 5 jumps and you're back at the ship. But what ends up happening, which is what happened to me, because it fucking happens every time, even though I've played this a bunch of times, is I fuck up one jump, or I think I'm going the right way and I'm not, and then suddenly you're back in the thick of it and you're completely lost. Because there's not a good visual anchor point for you to be like, I need to make my way in that direction. The second that you get below eye line of the sort of top level of the kind of little, I guess, like chunks of land or whatever you want to call them, the second you get below that, you have no visual reference point for the direction you should be going. And when you check the map, it's never clear how to get there. And it is just a fundamental design issue with the game. That they never quite solve. Some of the levels are just better designed. There's a couple that kind of make a little bit more sense. But yeah, quite a few of them throughout just never really figure it out. My suggestion is often the most direct path is, because they'll do this a lot, because it's sort of a Metroidvania style thing, where you'll clear an area, you'll get a new power, And the brain thing you should try and do is go like, okay, I have this new power. How should I use it to re-navigate this space? Weirdly enough, in that first planet, that's not how you get back. So even that doesn't really like track. So it is just like a weirdly designed thing. I agree with you guys. I think it's the weakest planet in the game. Is my like genuine opinion. They get better as they go.
I think the design of the wall run is also like a huge problem because, like, coming from Titanfall, if it was a physical object, then you could bounce off of it. And this game, at least from what I've seen so far, the only wall runs that you could do are on the smooth walls. And if it's not a smooth wall, then you're not allowed to wall run on it. And just coming from Titanfall, like, that concept just, because that was what was great about it, was that everything was real, you know? And so you come over here and you're like, well, if I can't run on that wall, then it's like not real. It's not really there. I can only run on the stuff that's really there. And it was just a weird mindset to have to get into. That's like, I have this power, but I can only use it if the physical properties of the thing are right. And so then you're looking at the striations on the rock to figure out if that's the way to go. And I couldn't figure out if I just hated that concept from a story building perspective or not.
I was also looking at the striations on the rock and going, is that a rock I can climb? Is that a rock I can run on? Is that a rock that's just there?
Right. So two things that will serve you well. Walls that have horizontal lines, you can wall run on. And you can climb on stuff that looks like it's maybe vines. Like, they will change up the texture and what it's made of. Like, you might be climbing on wires later on, or you might be climbing on, like, different types of stuff. One thing that annoys the shit out of me, just at, like, a purely control level, is when you jump on a surface and you have to hit L2 to climb.
Oh,
Fucking weird choice. They
yeah.
get rid of that in the second game. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Why would I ever not want to climb if I'm jumping at a climbing surface?
that is the lack of fluidity that there was. This first occurred to me in a game I may have brought it up before, or this concept before, but because we've been talking for several years now. But did y'all ever hear of the game The Saboteur?
Yeah, you've brought this up before, I think.
Yeah, it was. God, it had to be like 2010 or whatever. But it's like French Resistance, whatever. They had a parkour element in that game, and it was fine. It wasn't good, but it was fine. It was serviceable. However, Assassin's Creed had come out like a year or two before then, and it was one of those situations of, Assassin's Creed had set the standard for how this was supposed to go, and they had not put the work into their system to make it that way. So, like, here we are in, like, 2023. This game's, like, what, 3-4 years old now? More than that?
Yeah, older than that. I think it's like 2017, right?
Yeah, it's been around for a while. But either way, it's post Assassin's Creed, where like Assassin's Creed has for years now, more than a decade, set the standard for how parkour is supposed to go, or how fluid it should feel, and it doesn't feel that way in this game, and like that annoys the crap out of me when I see that. Like, this is not as bad as a level as or it's not on the level of the Saboteur, where it was so clunky that it was really noticeable and it kind of like got in the way of the gameplay. But like the thing that you bring up about having to jump and then, or having to jump on something and then hit climb, I'm like, I jumped on the thing, fucking climb, you know?
Yeah. It gets better. They start to give you, it's one of those things where it's such a video game thing where like they start to give you things which makes all of this better, but it's only as you progress. And it's like, yeah, but that means my first experience is shitty. Because they don't want to overwhelm you with mechanics and stuff. But it does improve.
I have one note left on my notes.
I have one note as well. Is it the same note?
Probably not.
Okay, what's your note then?
Mine is about the healing stem. What is yours about?
Oh, mine's about a cameo. Do your healing stem thing.
So the healing stem thing, like, this is purely a graphical kind of thing, but the idea of BD1 like feeding you healing stems and how it's executed when you're in the world, how it looks, etc., It's very cool. I dig it. I'm down for it.
Yeah, where it
However,
shoots up out of BD1 and you grab it and go.
yeah, well, he not just shoots up, but he just like shoots it and you like grab it and you like stab it in yourself like real quick. It's very cool, very fluid. However, the first time that it happens is in a cutscene where he gives you the healing stim and then you stab yourself through the leather chest plate that you're wearing. And I'm looking at that and going, this is a freaking cutscene. Like, nobody looked at that and go, like, that looks dumb. Like, put it in his shoulder or his leg or something like that. It's just like, this, it looks like, I keep bringing up these, like, comparisons to older games, but it looks like Skyrim from 2011. Come on.
Yeah, it's like the literal armor that he's wearing to protect himself or whatever.
Yeah, he just stabs himself in the leather.
Yeah.
It bothers me.
It's not a good
It bothers
choice.
me, David.
Yeah.
It bothers me.
I get it. It's a bad choice. I don't disagree. Actually, we haven't talked about this, and we should. What do you guys think of the poncho?
He's not wearing a poncho in the
First
second
level, he's wearing a poncho.
He's not wearing a poncho. I have found a poncho piece that I can swap out for. I haven't done it yet, but
Okay, we'll talk about it next time. All I would say is I would encourage you to explore your poncho options.
all I will
These are-
say is that the initial outfit that he's wearing when we get to the planet, I'm like, that's dope as fuck. I would cosplay that.
Yeah. Oh, listen. This game is famous for its ponchos. People were obsessed with these ponchos, y'all. Like, that first level, you're wearing a poncho,
yeah.
that thing is iconic.
I guess I was looking at it like it was a cape, I guess. Because you're always running, it's mostly behind perspective, you know, so you don't really see the front all that much.
It's a poncho. Yeah.
Was that your thing,
Anyway.
the poncho?
Something to think. No, that wasn't my note. I just remembered that. Did you guys trigger the cutscene on the ship to get the new destination?
Dathomir?
Yes.
Darthamir? Dathomir.
Dathomir
Dathomir in one other place.
I can't remember the other place, but the other place is their home world or whatever. Did you get the cutscene with? Did y'all see Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Oh no, not that far.
I believe I did.
Yeah, the little holocron.
I think as
wait.
soon as I got back to the ship, I saved it and then stopped.
Okay.
I think I did a cutscene, and it's the holocron of like it's basically Obi-Wan's message from Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yeah. Okay, that was my last note. Is like Obi-Wan's here. It's because I didn't properly communicate that you should trigger the when you get back to the ship. All of these notes that I've written is like you'll get back to the ship and then you'll have a new destination. You gotta play until you know what the new destination is. So you just missed a cutscene. That's all.
Gotcha. Yeah, I spent a lot of time just like running around and doing stupid stuff like this.
Perfect. Oh, he's a little goober. I love it. Look, I think that'll do it. We sure did talk about it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Next episode, we are talking about chapter 2, and what you want to do. So we're not going to go to Dathomir. We're going to go to the other planet because that's the mainline quest. Dathomir is like optional side content for now. You can go there. I would just say don't yet because it's pretty high level.
Wait. I need to write down. I've lost my pen. I've also got 3 fingers of whiskey in me, which I'm not used to. So I'm kind of spinning. How did I lose my pen?
So not Dathomir.
Don't go to Dathomir. Don't go to Dathomir.
Don't go to Dathomir. Go to the other place.
Remind me not to go to Dathomir.
I saved that reminder.
Hang on, let me
Note
tell you
to
what it's
self.
called. I believe it's Zepho is where you're going, which is the home planet of
Zepho.
the Zephi. Oh yeah, the home planet of the Zepho. Such a dumb
Zephin.
name.
Zephin?
Zepho.
Yeah.
No, it's the planet Zepho,
Oh.
and they're called Zepho.
Yeah, but what's the plural?
It's dumb. Zephys?
Zephi? Zephin?
Or is it Zephi like cacti? It's a
Yeah,
bad name.
It's the planet
Zepho?
Human where they're going to see the humans.
Fuck, it's so stupid. Anyway, Yeah, so we're going to Zepho, and what you want to do is you want to play until you've killed a thing that you guys will recognize. Can't see anything more than that, but it's a familiar enemy, and you'll come to the ship with a new destination. So the way this game works basically is each chapter is like a planet, more or less.
Yeah.
We will revisit some of these planets, but the next episode, yeah, you'll go to Zepho, you'll basically play through all of it, and then you'll come back to the ship and have the conversation about the next destination, and then you stop playing.
Come back to the
Cool.
ship. Cool.
Love it. Okay, stuff to plug. Rye, you got anything you want to plug? You just
Not
chilling?
at the moment.
Chilling. Darth, what you got? What you got coming out? What's all occurring?
I am so close to finishing my video essay on digital commerce, and it is... I keep breaking my record for the most work that I put into a single video, and this one I probably shattered it. But I've only got like 5 minutes of footage left to edit, so hopefully
Digital
next week.
commerce.
Yeah, like literally nothing to do with Star Wars whatsoever. I'm really curious how it's gonna be received, and then after that, I'll finally start on the Sherlock one.
Oh, good.
Oh,
a year and a half after we recorded it.